Hello and welcome to Women of Worth Wednesday. I'm Ganel-Lyn, your host. So excited to be coming to you live from Lehi, Utah. And I hope that you are holding up well. Welcome to those that are new to High Five Live, to Women of Worth Wednesday, and to me. I'm happy to connect with you and join you for a few minutes in this message. If you're watching live, I'd love to see where you're watching from. It's always such a joy to connect all over the world in this High Five Live family. And I'm excited to share a message with you that has come to me just this last week from Come Follow Me last week as we were studying together. If you're a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, you'll recognize Come Follow Me. It's an at-home study program, discussion, spiritual program that allows families and individuals to study scripture and to draw closer to God. If you're not familiar with that term, then you're welcome to check the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints website for information on the Come Follow Me program. This year we're studying the Book of Mormon, and last week we were talking about Nephi. Now, if you're familiar with all the different Nephis, we're in the Nephi of Helaman 10, and that's where I'm going to share my message today with you. I am so grateful that we reread the same stories over and over again in the scriptures, because every time we do, we get the opportunity to have, via the Spirit, a new awareness and a new learning. And I had one. And I think I've probably had this awareness in the past, but for some reason, it just, because of what I was wrestling with, it answered some questions and comforted my soul. So I'm going to jump right in. The title of my message today is Even the Prophet Can't Fix It. So at the time of Helaman 10, Nephi is the prophet, and he is teaching the people, and he's so upset and worried about the concerns of the decisions the people are making. And he's heavy in thought and prayer. And I think whether you're a prophet, whether you're a parent, whether you're just an individual watching the news play out, or like me, if you're some of all of that, and I do some work where I try to create content on social media and in writing and in speaking that I hope is helping. And it's so easy to get discouraged when we're trying so hard. Can you think of a time where you have been really trying to help an individual or create something to help in the world, or do a job, or serve a mission, or serve in a calling, and it is just not going well? Can you pull that up in your mind and heart? Maybe like me, you're in the middle of that right now. And you are watching things play out in the world and in your family, and you are so trying. You're trying to create goodness, you're trying to help, you're trying to support, and you have a head space that's giving you a measuring stick of, if I do this, the fruits of my labor will look like this. Have you had that experience where if I have this Come Follow Me lesson, or this family home evening lesson, or if I plan this family reunion, or if I write this book, or if I start this blog, it will look like this. It will have this effect in the world. And then you find yourself discouraged because you see what's playing out in the world. Well, I think Nephi is feeling this way. And in chapter 10, we see that it came to pass that Nephi went in his way towards his own house, pondering upon the things which the Lord had shown him, because he was seeing all of this destruction of agency, these choices his people were making that were making their lives harder. And he was trying his best. You know, he had prophesied of some things. He had stood up on mighty towers to declare the truth, and they weren't changing. And as he's pondering, it says in verse 3 that, and this is in chapter 10 of Helaman, that he, in his heart, he beheld a voice come unto him saying, Blessed art thou, Nephi, for those things which thou hast done, for I have beheld how thou hast with unweariness declared the word. That's how much he was working. He was working with unweariness. He was trying to declare the word of God. and his people were not listening. I have given unto thee, unto this people. Isn't that interesting? I have given unto thee the word. So everything he was teaching was coming from God. So it wasn't like if he didn't see the changes, he could say, well, maybe I didn't hear God correctly. No, God is saying to him, I'm talking to you and you're listening to me. And it says that as he beheld that voice and he was receiving that message, and thou hast not feared them, he didn't worry about what the people were thinking. And thou hast not sought thine own life. He wasn't trying to do things that felt comfortable to him. It says that, but thou hast sought my will. He was doing God's will, and he was keeping, it says at the end of verse 4, the commandments. But guess what? It wasn't working. He was doing everything right, and it was not working. Can you relate to this? Now, this is the insight the Spirit taught me. Then he was given the sealing power in verse 5. That everything that he would ask, the Lord trusted that he wouldn't ask for anything that wasn't the right thing to ask for. Nothing was going to be contrary to the will of God. And so he gave Nephi this power to smite the earth with famine and pestilence and destruction. He gave Nephi the power to seal in heaven. The power, whatsoever ye shall seal on earth shall be sealed in heaven. Verse 7. He gave him so much power. He goes on in that chapter to say all of these powers and this enabling power from God that we all have access to. We may not be a prophet with sealing power. We may not be talking face to face with God or with angels. But what I love about this is so often as a parent, we're like, I'm doing everything, God. I'm doing everything. I talked to a mom yesterday. She's doing everything for her son that deals with Tourette's syndrome and depression and anxiety. And all the resources are going to this issue. And it's hard. I'm talking to moms right now that are homeschooling. They're online schooling, and it's hard. I just was texting someone that I love who's like, the Spirit said, text her, tell her she's not alone and that she's loved. And she's like, that was the Spirit. I'm in my closet ready to give up. The technology's not working. The kids aren't cooperating. It's not working. I talk to men and women that go to work each day, and they're trying their best to keep their companies going during this pandemic. They're listening to God, they're praying, they're reading their scriptures, they're following the commandments, and they have the power of God with them, and the result isn't great. This is where Nephi was at, and this is what the Spirit taught me. Even with the sealing power, even with God and angels ministering to him, even with all the promises from God that Nephi had, if you keep reading, guess what? They tried to throw him in prison. Verse 15, and they would not hearken unto his words, therefore they did revile against him, and did seek to lay their hands upon him, that they might cast him into prison. For some reason, God was like, do you see? I gave my prophet his gifts that he needed to be successful, and the people still didn't listen. Now, it goes on to say that, behold, the power of God was with him, and they could not take him to cast him into prison, for he was taken by the Spirit and conveyed away out of the midst of them. Isn't that awesome? That's how close he was to God. God just snapped him up and pulled him out. What I loved about this story, what gave me so much comfort, and it was kind of a wake-up call, that I need to stop doubting that I'm hearing God and I'm doing his word and I'm sharing his word in my social media posts and shows like this. I host 3 different shows right now, and in speaking and in taking care of my family, in raising my children, that sometimes the fruit of my labor isn't what I think it's going to be. I'm keeping my covenants. I'm trying to listen to the Spirit. I'm trying to do exactly what God wants me to do. And if I'm not careful, I'm going to see the pushback, the resistance, the lack of followers, or the this many views, or the this many books were sold, or the choices of my kids, or the whatever, to be an evidence of something. So often, as Nephi felt here, our hearts are heavy because they would not listen. And it came to pass that when Nephi had declared unto them the word, behold, they still did harden their hearts. And my friends, I think this story is for us. It's not just for the prophets that are trying to lead. It's for all of us in all of our situations when we watch the agency of people around us choose in a way that disappoints us, that frustrates us. What do we do with that? Do we go back to God and say, well, I guess you really didn't direct me, or I guess I'm not hearing you, or I'm not righteous enough as a parent, or I'm not good enough as a primary teacher or a bishop or a stake president or whatever it is? Do we do that? I do. I struggle. I wonder. You know what I love, though, is that as this story goes on, time goes on. And so even though God gave him power to get out of the harm he was in at the moment, the power wasn't manifesting in the decisions of others. It's not till much later where he starts to see their hearts change. And you know what happens? They have to up the game. You know, the famine is what wakes them up, you know? And there had been so many wars that Nephi really has gone to the Lord and said, could we have something else besides a war? My friends, I believe right now that we need to stay in a place where we're trusting God's voice above what the world is saying. That we get to a place, and we got to get there every day. It's not one time. I got to choose into that. This morning, I had to reach out for faith friends to help remind me that I was feeling discouraged, that all the efforts weren't producing the results. And I'm watching time pass. I'm watching loved ones make choices that I would love to say, no, not that way. Go this way, go this way. And what God is saying to me, no, is agency is so important in his plan. He knows that's how we all learn. So my message to each of you today is this. God is speaking to you. Keeping the commandments and checking all the things off the list so that you're hearing his voice is awesome. But stop doubting that your spiritual gifts aren't working, that your covenants aren't working because of the choices of others. Sometimes it takes a long time. I want to jump back to another father and mother in the scriptures that must have felt discouraged. Laman and Lemuel had two amazing parents that were working hard. And they had great spiritual gifts, and they had taught their children, and they were watching their children's agency play out. And I wonder at times if Lehi was shown Helaman and Alma, was he shown that time as a comfort? Generations passed before the Lamanites became strong and converted. Was he shown that his great 500 years great grandchildren would return? And that's why he just kept showing up, loving Laman and Lemuel, and letting them choose. And yes, getting discouraged. Friends, it's okay to cry unto the Lord. Nephi does here in Helaman cry unto the Lord. He's frustrated. He's confessing to God that he's frustrated. I'm not saying be Pollyanna and not complain and cry out. I'm saying trust God that he has you, that your offering is enough, even when the choices of others around you discourage you, even when all that effort you made for dinner and the eye rolling happens, even when you have that come follow me lesson and your kids fight. You made it through 5 whole minutes. Even when your spouse who has walked away from your faith doesn't want to have family prayer and you keep inviting. I trust that you and I both have been prepared for this time, for 2020. That God sees us and he knows what we need as spiritual gifts, just like he knew with Nephi in Helaman 10. And that we need to be so careful because think of it, our heavenly parents are perfect. They are perfect. Our heavenly father and our heavenly mother are the perfect parents. And many of their children have chosen another way. I don't think they get discouraged because they know we have eternity to progress and learn. And so can we stretch out the time frame like Nephi here? He started to see his gifts manifest in his people, but it was for a few chapters. That's my message for each of us today, and for myself, so I don't get discouraged. I want to just share one thought that has nothing to do with this message specifically, but it is part of my heart and part of Women of Worth Wednesday. We've been together over 2 years. Many of you have come to know me and understand my message, my why, my mission, and know of my sister Meg and her death by suicide. September is Suicide Awareness Month, and I'm going to just do a special call out. There are so many people struggling right now. What's uniquely playing out in our world right now is not a surprise to God, but many of our hearts of our brothers and sisters are failing them, and we're losing too many by suicide. So my personal call out to you is, whether or not you're of my faith, I hope you feel of God near you today, that you are never alone, that we will never be better without you. If you're struggling with thoughts of self-harm, I hope you know that your broken parts are beautiful, and that there are parts of us that may not heal in this life. And those are the sacred places that God can enter. I just felt strongly I needed to end with that. If you need more support or messages around suicide, you can hop on some of my other platforms, Instagram and my YouTube channel. I have a playlist specifically dedicated. And I would love for you to continue to reach out if that serves you in some way. Because I've come to know that even the dark gets overwhelming for me. I do work around this every day. I have for the last 6.5 years since I lost my sister Meg. And I still have to be reminded. I still have to find ways to turn up the light, because the dark gets too much. And High Five Live is committed to providing light, messages of faith, so that we feel this connection to God, that we know our heavenly parents are aware of us, that angels are near. And I hope that you find that here on this page. And I hope that you continue to seek light, especially as the dark can kind of overwhelm us depending on what circumstances we're in. And I hope that you feel my love to you today and always, and that you will hold on and hope on. And I love you, and I'm sending my love to you. And I hope that Nephi and I have helped you in some way not to feel discouraged, to keep loving, to keep inviting, to keep encouraging, and show up with your offering. Don't stop showing up with your offering because it's not always received. That's my hope for each of us today. And we'll see you again next week on Women of Worth Wednesday.